What if your distractions could make you more focused? Well, 8 years ago, I was lost, distracted. I could barely focus for just a few minutes. But now, consistent 6 to 13 hours of focus every single day is pretty effortless for me. And this is without using any complex apps or systems. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple 3-part method so you can use your distractions to actually go into deeper natural focus every single day without using any willpower. To start, let me show you how to use distractions as a tool to focus deeper. So I want you to imagine your work or your goals as a cup, this big cup right here, and then your distraction actually as another cup, this little cup. But in order to get any results, any feeling of results at all, you have to fill the cup all the way in order to let it overflow. And that overflow is the result. But the issue is, your brain is unfortunately cooked. It's dried up. There is no focus juice left to actually fill this work cup or your goal cup. So it really only has enough focus juice left to fill this little cup here, the distraction cup. So that's exactly what it naturally gravitates for, because it's the only thing that can really get results out of. So it pours all its focus juice into this little cup, the distraction cup, and well, at this point, you get distracted, it pours out some pleasure, and you continuously do that. So in order to get into deep focus, or really get any results from any goal that you're trying to do, any work that you're trying to do, you need to get more focus juice. So how do you get more focus juice? This is exactly the F and fog, the 3-part method to use your distractions to get more focus. Fried brain or cognitive overload. So this is the real problem of your distractions, not the distractions themselves. Essentially, your distractions will tell you exactly where to get more focus juice, and you can do it in 4 different steps. So the first step is just to identify all your different cups. The trick is just to think about anything that you use your brain power on or is a distraction. Literally anything. And then list them all out. And then second step is just to identify with one question any useless cups or potentially useless cups. You ask yourself, does this help me achieve my bigger goal? And then, anything that's a yes, maybe some of your work cups, and you probably keep it for now. Anything you're unsure of, just make note of it. And anything is no, also make note of it. So most likely a lot of your distractions are no. But then anyways, you go into step 3 is now to remove the useless cups. So for example, any clear no's, you want to remove these immediately. This could be doom scrolling or watching dirty videos. Definitely not useful. But you want to watch out for the sneakiest distraction of them all, shiny objects. You've probably heard of them before. But the reason why they're so tricky, so hard to get rid of is because you don't actually realize that they're a distraction in the first place. The simplest way to identify them and then get rid of them is to just, for example, kind of like in step 2, what is your bigger goal? Does this cup right here, does this cup actually contribute to your bigger goal? If you're a bodybuilder, you want to be a pro bodybuilder, and this is a drop shipping cup just because you want to try to make some money, well, it's totally unrelated, so this is no good. It is actually a shiny object, so you get rid of it as well. And then step 4 is now to just, from the cups that you've removed in this step, now take that juice that was in there, so this juice from all these cups, and contribute it your good work cup that's not a shiny object. But this bodybuilder and dropshipping example is actually super simple, right? Picking a cup in real life to dedicate all your focus juice to is way harder, isn't it? You probably don't even have a gold cup in the first place right now. You don't know what cups actually matter to you. So again, you can actually use your distractions to figure out what cups matter here. So let me give you a bit of a quiz. So imagine you're in character creation of an MMO and you're 2 different player here. You have player A and then you have player B. Player A, he just he likes to play melee class all the time in pretty much any game he plays. He just likes to smack stuff with a sword. So he immediately just pretty much picks warrior out of this. But then player B, he studied, he went hardcore. He went to tier lists and then read about guides and watched the different videos to find the most OP class before he started so he can be the most successful in the game. And he found that that particular class was mage, so he went and picked the mage class. Who do you think of player A and then player B is going to be actually more successful, better in the game? If you actually thought player B, because he picked the OP class, you're actually wrong. Let me explain why. So in order to succeed in the game, you need to spend a ton of hours grinding different monsters. And then, from grinding those monsters, you kill them and then, they drop silver and you stack that up. And over time, you can, use your silver to buy gear or some shit like that. But the thing is, player B, he has the strongest character. He has the mage and he can kill the monsters super fast, right? But he only spends 2 hours a day and he's okay, I got some good silver, and the rest of the time he spends in the lobby chatting with different people or talking about the game because he doesn't really care too much about playing the mage itself. Grinding the monsters isn't too fun. He just kills them fast. But player A, on the other hand, he really likes smacking those monsters with his sword. And sure, it literally takes him 3x longer for him to kill one monster than it does for player A to use his mage to kill a monster. But he spends 18 hours straight just grinding because he enjoys it. So what's happening is player A is spending 18 hours a day grinding. He's killing slower, but it's more hours. And then player B, he's killing much faster, 3 times faster, but he's only spending 2 hours. If you actually just do the math here, the quick math, you have 18 hours of player A divided by the 2 hours of player B. This equals 9x more grinding for player A. And then with that 9x more grinding, you can take that 9x and divide it by it taking him 3 times longer to kill a single monster. So then he's actually earning 3x more silver. So player A with his warrior, his weaker character, ends up ahead just because he picked something he enjoys. Okay, but how does this actually relate back to using your distractions as a tool to pick the right cups to add your focus juice to? So this brings to the second part of the method, out of passion. If you're consistently distracted, you might actually be lacking your passion in that particular goal. So not enough obsession, which means you can't do it in the long term, and then you're going to fail. And there's 3 steps to actually fix this. So first step is just to think of all your different work cups. Just jot them down or think about it mentally. Second step is to measure your distraction frequency for each. And then here, I'll just give an example for each of these cups. So let's just say this is like copywriting. This one here is coding. This one here is like, you wanna get jacked or, fitness. You wanna ask yourself this question: how often, on average, do you get distracted per session of trying to do any of these particular goal cups? So let's say the copywriting was 4 per session. On average, the coding is 8. And fitness is maybe like 2. And now you want to go into step 3, which is to evaluate the different distraction frequencies. So these high distraction frequency, like here, coding, you want to look at very carefully. This is like essentially the red flag on the cup. And you have 2 choices to actually figure out what's going on here. You can either take a look at why you don't enjoy, like why don't you enjoy the coding that much, and then fix it so then you get distracted less, or which probably the more likely case is that you're just doing it based on other people's opinion, or you think it's the safe thing to do, or you're just kind of following the crowd. This cup here doesn't actually drive your curiosity, doesn't make you want to do it, no passion. So you want to seriously consider getting rid of it to move that focus juice into something that you care more about, or you get distracted less on. So remember this: if your goal doesn't have enough passion, it doesn't make you genuinely excited and obsessed with it, you'll never be like player A. You'll always be like player B, earning subpar silver. Okay, but sometimes you actually have a goal that you are genuinely passionate about, but you just never can get yourself to actually do it. I knew someone who wanted to be like an artist one day. She would constantly try and watch videos about it, and think about it all the time, learn about how to draw better. But when she actually went to go sit down and draw, she just never felt like it. So how can you use distractions as a tool to now overcome this problem of not feeling like it? You can actually experience the solution for this effect right now with a little bit of an experiment. If you have right now a nice ripe fruit, sweet fruit around, like a banana or an apple, that would be ideal. And then also get a piece of candy. But if you don't have those things or you don't want to get it, you can just imagine it. If you've had both before, it's pretty easy. So first, all you have to do is just take a bite of any fruit that you have. Pretty sweet, right? Is probably something that you do notice. But then now take a bite of the piece of candy. Probably also very sweet. But then now go back and take another bite right after of the same fruit that you took a bite out of. Something interesting happens. You probably notice right now that this fruit, even though it was sweet, it's a lot less sweet now, or maybe even sour after you've eaten the candy. And it's not because the fruit changed. The fruit's exactly the same as it was a few seconds ago, right? It's because your baseline for sweetness was spiked by the candy, and now it's reset to a higher baseline. And then with that, now the fruit or this banana doesn't taste so sweet because your temporary threshold for sweetness is raised so high now. And you know what? Exactly the same is how your dopamine in your brain works. So this is a previous video about how to lower your dopamine baselines, but essentially what you're doing is the exact opposite of this. By constantly doing the distractions, you are raising your dopamine where it can be in a good work zone all the way into completely fried brain, making your actual things like studying or working or exercising, they feel bland or they're actually painful to do, despite you genuinely wanting to achieve that goal. So how do you get rid of these addicting distractions spiking your dopamine despite them being very addicting? Again, the real issue isn't the distraction in itself. It is the third part of the method, G, gutted dopamine in fog. And there's just 3 simple steps to use this. Step 1, now you want to pull up all your different distraction cups. And I just pull up 3 different here. And for me years ago, just as an example, it was like watching anime, and then you had like dirty videos, and you also had some video games. And now in step 2 with those distractions, you just need to ask yourself 2 different questions. Question 1 is just, is this more stimulating than my productive work? And then in this case, all of them are distractions. So yes, all of them are more distracting. And then you want to ask yourself, question 2, does this distraction drain my focus juice after I'm done? And in this case, actually, anime is not really. It's actually quite passive, you just watch it and you don't think too much about it after. So it's a no in this case. Video games, actually, yes, because you play a game, you spend hours and hours thinking about it afterwards. Like, how can you improve more? How do you get more gear? How do you progress faster? How do you level up? So quite a drain on your focus juice. And then dirty videos. This is absolutely a yes, right? Because think about it. After you watch those dirty videos, it makes you more horny. You think about like, when's the next time I'm going to watch? What's the next video I'm going to watch? Huge drain on your focus juice. Then you go into step 3 with those questions answered, and you just remove anything based on your answers. So you have the anime, which is a no and a yes. This is what I would call a keep distraction, because sometimes you do want to have something else that you do other than work so you don't just like burn out. And the reason why you keep it is because of the no. It doesn't really drain your focus juice. And other examples of a keep distraction could be like, another one I have is I ride a motorcycle every once in a while. For you, it could be like, I don't know, some sport that you play, something that you don't think about too much after. And then as for the double yeses, just get rid of these. But the trick is, since these are so addicting, like they have maximum addiction here based on these 2 questions, you have to remove it in a specific way. And I went really in depth about it in a previous video. I call it the replacement method and also a nut schedule. Summarizing it here is just gradually reduce the stimulation level over time. So as an example, dirty videos. You're at your computer, you watch these dirty videos on like 6 different monitors all at once every single time. Well, you can just do that for 1 week. And then for like the next week, you only switch to like 3 monitors. And the next week you switch to like 2 and then 1 until you finally get rid of watching dirty videos altogether. So you gradually reduce the dopamine baseline, resetting it to finally natural. But here's the thing. Even after the fog method, using your distractions as a tool to increase your focus and then clearing away your brain fog, you might still notice something very frustrating, is that your work still doesn't feel very engaging. And many times you get pulled away because you get bored or something like that. Why is that? This is because your brain is actually 95% unconscious and only 5% of it is conscious. And that 95%, that unconscious brain is still in distraction mode. It's stuck there. So it's going to feel impossible for your 5%, your conscious brain, to get into focus mode, because that other 95%, the way more, is going to keep pulling you out, and you're going to get distracted. It's going to kill your focus, and you're going to waste tons of time trying to pull yourself back. But what if there's a way to reprogram that 95% so you could be actually consistently pulled into focus mode? Well, you 100% can, and in this next video I will show you exactly that, about how to reprogram your unconscious mind to pull you back into focus.